My name is Ethan Mercer, and I understood I had not been invited to my younger brother Caleb's wedding because my passport still rested on the kitchen table. It had remained there for weeks beside a train ticket to the northern coast. I had delayed the trip, certain Caleb's wedding would claim that weekend. Then photographs quietly appeared online. My cousins laughed inside an elegant tailor shop. My aunt admired embroidered fabrics while relatives gathered beneath strings of lights already hanging for the celebration. Everyone seemed excited, except the one person nobody had informed. No message arrived, no invitation appeared, no phone call came. Finally, I called my mother. She answered quickly, but before speaking she hesitated, as though waiting for permission from someone nearby. "I'm sorry, Ethan," she whispered. "This celebration is only for the closest family." The sentence sounded gentle, yet it cut deeper than anger ever could. I glanced at my passport before replying calmly. "I hope everything goes beautifully." She waited for disappointment or an argument, but I offered neither. I ended the call and spent the evening quietly packing. 3 mornings later, I boarded the northbound train. Rain streaked across the windows while the station smelled of coffee and damp concrete. Inside my backpack rested only essentials and one unusual possession, an old brass key my late grandfather had given me after selling the family farmhouse years earlier. He had smiled while placing it in my hand. "Not every key unlocks a door," he'd said. "Some remind you where you stopped belonging." Back then, I dismissed the words as another one of his riddles. Now, watching rolling green hills replace crowded streets, I finally understood. Perhaps this journey wasn't about escaping rejection. Perhaps it was about discovering what remained of me once I stopped living only for everyone else's expectations. The farther the train carried me, the lighter everything felt. For the first time in years, nobody expected me to repair a broken appliance, cover an overdue bill, or abandon my plans to rescue another family crisis. I woke without alarms, wandered quiet seaside streets, lingered in small cafes, and watched strangers smile without recognizing my last name. The silence felt unfamiliar, almost suspicious, but each passing day made it easier to trust. On the second evening, my phone buzzed. The first call came from my cousin Olivia. I ignored it. Minutes later, my uncle called, then my mother. 5 missed calls became 12. Finally, a message appeared. "Please answer. It's urgent." I sat on a weathered bench overlooking the grey sea before returning the call. My mother's breathing reached me before her voice. "Ethan, the wedding isn't happening." I stayed silent. "There were debts nobody knew about," she continued. "Caleb borrowed money to make everything look perfect. Luxury cars, expensive decorations, a banquet twice what anyone could afford. When creditors arrived demanding payment, the vendors packed everything up. The bride's family cancelled the ceremony before it even began. Months of planning had disappeared in a single afternoon. "I don't know what we're supposed to do," she whispered. Neither did I. The following morning, the messages changed. Not "how are you?" Not "we miss you." Instead, "can you help? You know people at the bank? Maybe you can lend us enough to settle things. You always fix problems." I stared at the glowing screen until it faded to black. That was the painful truth. When I wasn't invited, I wasn't considered family. When disaster arrived, I suddenly became essential again. I turned the phone face down and watched fishing boats disappear into the morning fog, refusing to let guilt pull me back into the life I had finally stepped away from. I stayed until my return ticket expired, not out of revenge, but because leaving early would have dragged me back into the role I had played for years, the dependable brother who sacrificed everything while asking for nothing. When I returned home, the neighbourhood looked defeated. Wilted flowers leaned against overflowing trash bins, and stacks of rental chairs waited to be collected. Every decoration seemed to remind someone of a celebration that had never happened. My mother opened the front door. She looked exhausted, stripped of the confidence she had worn for months. She hugged me. After a long pause, I returned it. We sat in the kitchen, untouched tea cooling between us. Finally, she whispered, "We need your help." Not an apology, a request. I met her eyes. "When did I stop being one of the closest people?" She lowered her head. "The bride's parents worried your success would create comparisons with Caleb," she admitted. "Someone suggested leaving you off the guest list to avoid tension. I agreed because it seemed easier." "Easier for everyone except me," I replied. That afternoon, Caleb arrived. carrying the expensive suit he had never worn. I made terrible choices, he admitted quietly. Can you help me pay what's left? Years earlier, I would have reached for my savings before he finished speaking. Instead, I placed my grandfather's old brass key on the table. It doesn't open anything, Caleb said. I know, I smiled gently. I'm not refusing because I hate you. I'm refusing because if I rescue everyone today, nothing changes tomorrow. The family eventually sold unused property, negotiated with creditors, and rebuilt their lives honestly. Nearly a year later, Caleb married in a simple ceremony everyone could truly afford. This time, my invitation arrived with my name written carefully by hand. I thanked him sincerely, but declined. Another train awaited me, and the old brass key rested safely in my pocket, reminding me that dignity is the only home no one can ever take away.